So today is going to be a very, very interesting day because we're going to be checking out all of the Honkai Impact Chronicles. So just a warning, these are big spoilers, I imagine. They're going to just explain the story in these videos. Also, I want to say big, big shout out and thank you to Nightmare M for putting all of these videos in different playlists and putting them in order. These videos can be hard to find sometimes, like in the right order. So we already saw Azure Waters already, so we can just jump right into chapter 1.
Captain on bridge.
Greetings, Captains. Welcome to the Honkai Operations Center. Have you wondered where the Valkyries came from? What are they fighting for? And what exactly does Honkai mean?
Yes, yes, and
We
yes.
will be diving into the history and worldview of Honkai Impact throughout this series. Today is a basic introduction to the prequel of the entire story.
Ooh.
Throughout history, the struggle between mankind and nature has never ceased. The Honkaiverse is based on a parallel universe that reiterates this conflict, humanity's struggle against the Honkai. But what is the Honkai? We don't know exactly where it's from, but it's a force of chaos that existed from the beginning of time. It wants to destroy human civilization, and when human technology advances, it grows stronger. Honkai have tried to destroy us through creating supernatural disasters, monsters, and plagues, and giving birth to Hershers, godlike beings who can bend physical laws. In the
Right.
Honkaiverse, humanity has already established a high-tech global civilization 50,000 years ago. Modern humans refer to this civilization as the previous era. Unfortunately, those high-tech humans in the previous era lost the war and were defeated by the Honkai. The previous era was destroyed, but some humans survived to rebuild human civilization. This brings us to the current era. Of course, Honkai wants to destroy humanity, so they didn't leave us in peace, even in the current era. 2717 BC was the date of the earliest record of the Honkai beast attacks. Fortunately, gifted human warriors such as Ji Xuanyan helped us defeat these early Honkai monsters. But Ji Xuanyan disappeared into the seas after an expedition to defeat the giant Honkai beast Chiyo.
Oh
To
no.
defend humanity against the Honkai, a religious organization known as the Shiksal rose after the fall of the Roman Empire. Shiksal was led by an overseer, usually a member of the Apocalypse family, who established Shiksal. It helped create the feudal order by helping various European princes gain power. They also developed crude Honkai-powered weapons and initiated the Honkai Crusades. The feudal armies of Europe fought the Honkai, defeating them in many battles and reclaiming lost lands. To increase its power, Shiksal also recruited and trained its own military. The Valkyrie Order is the most famous Shiksal fighting force, and a legendary Valkyrie is Kallan of House Kaslana. The Kaslanas are a family of knights known for their prowess in fighting the Honkai. Kallan's most powerful weapon is the Oath of Judah, an artifact from the previous era that was very effective against the Honkai. However, many things happened in the year 1470. Honkai created an infectious virus that caused the Great Plague and killed millions throughout Europe.
Jesus.
But Shiksal did not focus on treating the plague. Instead, the leaders wanted to dominate the Eurasian continent and declared war against the Ming Empire of China. The war ended with Shiksal's defeat in 1475. To pay for the losses, Shiksal increased taxes and took money from the poor. These bad decisions only made Shiksal even less popular. When Shiksal tried to recover from its defeat, the Great Plague continued to claim lives. Otto Apocalypse, a younger son of Shiksal's ruling dynasty of House Apocalypse, managed to develop a cure in 1475. Although he was not the heir to the seat of Overseer, Otto's discovery increased his popularity. The deaths of his father and brothers allowed him to become the new Overseer. Since then, human technology continued to grow. Everyone thought Honkai was gone, but the first Honkai eruption took place in 1952 and destroyed the entirety of Berlin. The eruption gave birth to the first Hersher, a powerful godlike being capable of bending physical laws. Shiksal, which has become a rather secretive organization by now, quickly overpowered and captured the Hersher for research. But Shiksal scientists failed to find out anything. The first Hersher was then transferred to a Shiksal lab in London for additional inquiry. It was there that the first Hersher was given the name Welt by the resident scientists Einstein and Tesla. The scientists and leadership of the North American branch were already very displeased with Otto's militaristic leadership. Some even doubted Otto's willingness to eradicate the Honkai. These differences eventually led to the independence of the entire branch, which renamed themselves Anti-Entropy in 1955. Unlike Shixal, which relied on Valkyries as its elite warriors, Anti-Entropy designed and built Honkai-powered mechs. The second Honkai eruption happened in 2000 and destroyed Siberia and the Russian Far East. It turned out that Shixal were performing many inhumane experiments on Honkai-resistant children. One of them, Siren, awakened and acquired Herrscher powers and proceeded to take revenge against those who tested on her and her friends. Shixal mobilized hundreds of Valkyries and depleted its entire arsenal of Honkai fission missiles to defeat this foe. Many Valkyries fell in battle, including Cecilia Shariak, reputedly the best Valkyrie of Shixal. 14 years later, in 2014, a minor Honkai eruption, referred to as an outbreak, took place in Nagazora. The outbreak wiped out the entire city and transformed many into zombies.
What?
The cause was the partial awakening of Mei Ryden, the third Herrscher, due to an implantation of a Herrscher gem. The Nagazora outbreak was contained by Shixal Far East Branch, led by Otto Apocalypse. The few survivors of the event, Kiana Kaslana, Mei Ryden, and Bronya Zajcek, were then enrolled in St. Freya High School, a Valkyrie training school built by Otto Apocalypse after the Second Honkai War. Now we can finally move on to the events in the game itself. Honkai Impact 3rd starts in the year 2016. You are the captain of the flying battleship Hyperion of Shixal Far East Branch. You will lead Kiana Kaslana, a brash and hot-headed Valkyrie trainee, and her other friends into battle. We hope this provides a basic understanding of the important events and forces of Honkai Universe. The rest of the history will continue in future episodes, following the life of Kiana, Mei, Bronya, and other Valkyries in the Honkaiverse.
That was excellently put together. That was really well done. I like that. More games should do stuff like that. That was like, because a lot of times you don't really know what's going on in certain situations, but I mean, he literally just broke down the entire history before the game even starts. So real quick, the Honkai are basically like terrorists almost, or like an organization that's just, they create plagues and monsters, and then they also give birth to Herrschers, which are just like super people, I guess, who can bend laws and godlike beings who can bend physical laws. I'm assuming that the little girl who was also named Apocalypse, her last name, I assume she's probably a daughter or just like part of the family of Otto Apocalypse. Otto Apocalypse, right? She took care of the zombie outbreak, but then he said that Mei Ryden was partially the cause of the zombie outbreak, but yet she survived and moved on.
Mei Ryden and Bronya Zajcek were then enrolled in St. Freya High School.
To go to high school. Wasn't she like partially responsible for that zombie outbreak? Did she not get reprimanded for that? Anyways, moving on to the Theater of Thunder. Okay. Is this an actual... It's a different pace from the first one. Is that Mei? Oh, the story of her? Okay. I think it is Mei. Yeah. They like her lunch. Can I visit your manor? Oh no. It's looking good. Oh, his father just left her? Oh no. I mean, he's at work, so he can't be, but... Challenge you to a duel. never give up no matter how many times I lose to you. Oh God, what is that thing? Oh, nice. All right, she won. Oh, so he's trying to let her win. Okay. Horrible incident? Oh God. CEO of... Uh-oh. Oh no. Something happened with her father? He got jailed? Wow, what a 180. It's sad, man. Oh no, she found out. Suffocating her. Was pierced by a ray of light. Oh, okay. This is all making sense now. So I wonder if Kiana knows what happened with her father, or if she's just being nice by herself. Just ate her lunch. Blank cute. Yeah, so I wonder if she's just being nice, or she's being nice because she knows what happened. Got your umbrella? Oh, wow. Okay. It's too tiny for us. Oh, oh, so now, okay, here we go. So creepy. Wow. People are horrible. So she does know now, at least. Okay. She's barking mad. Let's get out of here. Cowards. Oh, there you go. She was alone too. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, she had no one. Well, actually, I mean, Mei actually had a lot of people who liked her, but she didn't have like a close friend. She disappeared? Who was that? Oh, when she turned to the siren? So now she wants to protect her now. All makes sense, yeah. Wow. So I wonder how long they were like friends for. Well, shout out to Zach M Gaming for putting that together. I'm pretty sure he put that together. That's not the actual like, you know, like Honkai videos. But he did that and did a really good job of explaining the life of Mei and how her and her relationship went with Kiana. But yeah, I wonder if they've been friends. No, they have been, because I said it earlier. It was Kiana and Mei, and then somebody else as well, all went to high school together. So they've always been friends, and they still are friends, but once Kiana disappeared out of her life, she came back for her, so. Alright, now we're back to these again. This is Chapter 2.
Greetings, Captain. Welcome back to Honkai Operations Center. In recent stories of Honkai Impact 3rd, Mei has been the center of stage. She returned to the city of Nagazora, regained her Herrscher powers, and once again became the Queen of Thunder.
Queen of Thunder.
How did this heiress of a multi-billion-dollar corporation turn into a Herrscher? What did she experience and witness? To answer these questions, we have divided Mei's journey into 4 parts: Origins, Valkyrie, Arc Fugitive, and Returning to Nagazora.
Arc
Mei
Fugitive.
Ryden was born on April 13, 1997 in the city of Nagazora. Her father, Ryoma Ryden, was the head of Massive Electric Corporation. Mei's mother, however, passed away when she was young, and her name remained a mystery. Mei was enrolled in the elite high school of Chiba Academy. Only children of rich, powerful, and connected people could hope to study there. And Mei Ryden happened to be one of them, and she was so much more. She was beautiful, tall, and intelligent. Everyone in school idolized her.
Wait, did they use?
But this didn't last forever. Disaster struck ME Corp that her father owned. Ryoma Ryden became a criminal, guilty of economic fraud, and went missing to avoid arrest.
Oh no.
Mei's life was turned upside down. Her classmates and even teachers turned cold and ostracized her.
Yep.
That was when she learned that their friendship and adulation were only reserved for her family fortune and prestige, and those had disappeared when her father ran away.
The last video was great.
Left alone to face an uncaring world, Mei soon became extremely jaded and started hearing a voice echoing in the darkness. It promised terrible powers. This world deserves to be destroyed. She chose to become a Herrscher and ignited the 2014 Honkai outbreak in Nagazora.
What about
Millions
Kiana?
died as a result. While Mei reveled in her new powers, a mysterious silver-haired transfer student named Kiana Kaslana suddenly appeared to stop her. Instead of trying to kill Mei for destroying the city, Kiana appealed to her human conscience. With her help, Mei successfully subdued the Herrscher within, and Kiana quickly became a close friend. The two girls met Bronya, and the 3 of them worked together to flee the stricken city. They were then taken into custody by Himiko, a Valkyrie of Shiksal's Far East branch. Otto Apocalypse, who's in charge of the Far East branch, used all her powers and resources to enroll the 3 girls into her own Valkyrie training school, St. Freya High. And that was Mei Ryden, an ex-heiress once worth billions who lost both her parents, became ostracized, acquired Herrscher powers, destroyed a city, met 2 very good friends, and started training to become a Valkyrie and defend the world against the Honkai.
They
Mei
just
was
let her
ever
live?
fearful of the Honkai within her and agreed to let Himiko implant a heart bomb. The bomb has a sensor that will start a countdown if it detects Herrscher impulses within Mei. During her training, Mei and her friends Kiana and Bronya took on many missions that included stopping an ancient Honkai monster, Chio, and recovering a runaway battleship known as the Selene.
That is horrible.
Mei also demonstrated her superb cooking abilities. She even learned to play video games. But things would once again turn for the worst. Shortly after graduating as fully minted Valkyries, Mei, Kiana, and Bronya were sent to Shiksal's Oceania branch to recover a Herrscher core, the Gem of Desire. The gem was placed in an ex-Valkyrie named Wendy, who served as its human vessel. But Wendy eventually lost control and became a Herrscher herself. While the young Valkyries battled Wendy, Kokolia from Shiksal's rival faction of Anti-Entropy ambushed them, using a brain chip implant to control Bronya and capture both Wendy and Mei. While Mei was held as a prisoner to be experimented upon for her Herrscher powers, Bronya chose to sacrifice herself by burning out her brain chip so that Kiana and the others could rescue Mei and escape. Mei soon realized that her friends often suffered grievously just to save her. A sense of helplessness and a matching desire to get stronger began to grow in her heart.
Dang, Bronya.
That wasn't the end of the bad news. As Teresa and the Far East branch worked around the clock to wake Bronya from her coma, Shiksal overseer Otto Apocalypse suddenly abducted Kiana and took her to his secret headquarters. It turned out that the overseer always had a secret plan of reviving a Herrscher known for her burning hatred against humanity. Mei, once hopeful that she could protect the world as a Valkyrie, realized that she simply wasn't strong enough. Bronya went into a coma to save her, Kiana was kidnapped, and her ultimate superior, Otto Apocalypse, turned out to be a scheming supervillain who would soon unleash a terrible Honkai disaster upon the entire planet. Once again, Mei's life entered another pivotal moment. Kiana was revealed to be an artificial clone designed by Otto that served one purpose only: to serve as a vessel to Sirin, the second Herrscher who was defeated in the year 2000.
Oh.
To rescue Kiana and stop the impending Honkai eruption, Teresa of the Far East branch rebelled against Overseer Otto. Mei also became part of the alliance forged by Teresa and Anti-Entropy. And together they fought their way into the headquarters of Sheiksal itself. While battle raged, Sirin began to stir in her slumber. The second Herrscher gradually assumed control over Kiana's body and summoned a horde of Honkai beasts. To help clear the way to the possessed Kiana, Teresa decided to remove the heart bomb from Mei.
Oh, good.
Mei was grateful for Teresa's trust. Armed with the power of the Herrscher within, she easily defeated numerous enemies. But all her struggles were in vain. When the rebels stepped into the heart of Sheiksal, Sirin's persona had already succeeded in fully possessing Kiana. A terrible battle followed. Sirin tore away the Gem of Conquest from Mei's body and acquired even greater powers.
Oh, when did that happen?
The removal of the Herrscher core also took Mei out of the fight. Just when all hope was lost, Himeko entered into the fray and bravely fought Sirin. Her selfless fight gave everyone the time they needed to escape. Teresa and the exhausted rebels withdrew from Sheiksal. They failed to stop Otto and Sirin and became fugitives on the run. The Battle of Sheiksal was yet another blow in Mei's life. She couldn't save her best friend. Sirin even took Mei's core, gaining greater powers to wreak havoc on the entire planet. And in the face of such an enemy, Mei's only option was to flee.
Retreat, yeah.
Having been on the run for 4 months, Teresa came across witness reports of Kiana at Arc City, located in Shenzhou. Teresa, Bronya, and Mei tried contacting an intel dealer named Grey Serpent.
So Himeko
Instead,
died, right?
They came across the Ningyo, a cyborg girl who might know Kiana's whereabouts. But Sheiksal's agent Rita suddenly appeared and defeated the 3 fugitives. They were forced to retreat with the Ningyo. The bad news was that the Ningyo no longer had any useful data after being formatted by Rita. Mei, who felt she had been performing poorly in battle, asked Dr. Tesla to make her an augmented battlesuit to work better with her residual Herrscher powers. Meanwhile, the fugitives also decided to split their forces in 2. Teresa would respond to Kokolia's request and head to the Deep, located in the Pacific, to retrieve the Gem of Desire. Mei and Tesla would return to AE headquarters with the Helios to repair the Ningyo for data salvaging and locate Kiana's whereabouts.
She's still kidnapped, yeah.
While Mei and Tesla worked on the Ningyo, the cyborg suddenly conveyed a message from Rita. Rita revealed that Kiana was indeed in Arc City to investigate a mysterious serpent-backed company. Kiana even agreed to form a temporary alliance with Rita. But Rita soon walked into a world serpent trap and lost her S-rank Valkyrie powers. Kiana was also captured by the world serpent. With little options left, Rita thus decided to call Mei for support.
Captured again?
Though suspicious of Rita, Mei would not give up any chance of reuniting with Kiana and went back to Arc City eventually. Mei was also surprised that Rita did not lie and even tried working with her. Mei did get what she wanted, reuniting with Kiana. She asked her friend to return to the Hyperion. However, Kiana chose to stay in Arc to stop the World Serpent from creating an artificial Honkai eruption in the city. A World Serpent mercenary named Raven tried to stop Kiana, and the 2 girls fought her off, only to realize that Raven succeeded in delaying them.
Raven?
A wounded Mei could only see her friend tapping into the Forbidden Void powers to send the detonating Honkai reactor away from the city and save millions of people. Kiana passed out from overexerting herself and fell. Her deadly descent was stopped by a tree that sprouted from a lance. Mei rushed forward to save her friend, only to find out that Durandal, the most powerful S-rank Valkyrie of Sheiksal, had arrived first. And this Valkyrie was ordered to take Kiana away. No matter how hard Mei fought, she couldn't stop Durandal. Once again, the cruel hands of fate tore them apart. The attempted reunion with Kiana at Arc City only deepened Mei's angst. She was too weak to stop Sheiksal, and her weakness allowed them to take Kiana. Though imprisoned at Sheiksal's Vemur Labs in North Africa, Kiana managed to escape during the chaos caused by a World Serpent attack. She used her void powers again and teleported herself to Nagazora, the place where she first met Mei.
Nice.
Dr. Tesla detected the energy fluctuations from Kiana's teleportation, and thus the fugitives headed toward the city that was destroyed by the Honkai eruption 3 years ago. Mei and Tesla arrived at the city ruins and tried looking for Kiana. Instead, they found scavenging children living in shelters who survived the Honkai disaster.
How?
And the
How'd they
sensei
survive?
protector of these children who helped build their shelters was none other than Raven, the world serpent mercenary that Mei fought in Arc City. When facing rising sea levels, and
Hold on, she did what
protector
now?
of these children who helped build their shelters was none other than Raven,
She
the world
protected
serpent
them?
mercenary that Mei fought in Arc City.
That's how.
When facing rising sea levels and Honkai resurgence, and also due to her need to protect the children, Mei agreed to set aside hostilities and join forces with Raven.
There you go.
Together, they located Kiana's whereabouts and even defeated the Honkai dragon Benares that was trying to protect its queen. Then Raven revealed her intent for coming to Nagazora. She wanted to kill Kiana and end the threat of the Honkai she poses. Nevertheless, Raven gave Mei a chance to stop herself. Mei drew her blade without hesitation and ended her brief alliance with Raven. But without her Herrscher gem, Mei was no match against Raven. The mercenary even scoffed at her, calling her no different than an ordinary human. Mei knew that Raven would kill Kiana once she was defeated. She decided to sacrifice herself and started concentrating Honkai energy within her. Raven was shocked. She just witnessed a coreless ex-Herrscher releasing a sudden burst of terrible power. She therefore allowed Mei to take Kiana away. After enduring many battles and defeats, Mei was finally able to bring Kiana home. But then Dr. Tesla told her the bad news.
No,
The 3
man.
Herrscher cores within Kiana had overloaded her body with Honkai infection. She had less than 2 months to live.
Oh,
Mei found herself utterly helpless after hearing the bad news. She also found that Kiana had lost several senses and could not even taste the food she
oh
cooked.
no.
The world serpent, however, was well aware of the relationship between Mei and Kiana. Kiana Kaslana, the sire of the world serpent, met Mei in person. He was a previous era survivor and lauded as their most powerful warrior. Kevin promised Mei that the world serpent could save Kiana's life, and that would require Mei to simply become a Honkai Herrscher once again. Once Mei became a Herrscher, one of the Herrscher cores infecting Kiana would dissipate and reappear in Mei instead, greatly reducing Kiana's infection.
But she
But
still
Mei
has
would
it
have
though.
to leave Kiana and join the World Serpent to ensure that their grand project succeeds. And when Project Stigma successfully reforms the human race and defeats the Honkai, Kiana would no longer have to sacrifice herself to protect the world. To save her dying friend, Mei accepted the Serpent's offer without hesitation. And shortly after making her choice, a channel into the Sea of Quanta suddenly appeared in Nagazora. It turned out that Otto had fired the second divine key to create a channel right through the sea. And this was only possible because of the deal that Kevin and Otto made a few days ago. Kevin told Mei that she should take this chance to absorb Honkai energy seeping from Nagazora and complete her metamorphosis.
She had to.
Everything that began in Nagazora would end in the same city. 3 years ago, Kiana stopped Mei from becoming a Herrscher, and the two girls became best friends. And now, Mei has decided to become a Herrscher once more, just to save Kiana. When the transformation is complete, Mei will have to betray her friends and join forces with the enemy. But that's the price she needs to pay.
To keep her
Entering
alive.
the darkness is the only way she can return Kiana to bliss.
Oh,
We're happy
man.
that you managed to stay with us and reach the end of this video.
Dude.
We would also like to know what you think about the story so far and what you would like to see next. Background history of the factions such as the World Serpent, Sheiksal, and Anti-Entropy, or background stories of characters on your Valkyrie roster. Perhaps even secret technologies of the previous era. Do leave your opinions in the comments section. We'll see you
Wow.
next time.
They were so cool for doing this, man. This is awesome. This is such a cool thing that they do. That's crazy, man. Oh, they explained this so well. I cannot believe. So yeah, she literally had no choice. Like, for how many times Mei tried to save Kiana, it's literally insane. I mean, like, every single chance that she got. And you think about it, Kiana only saved her once, you know? But of course, Kiana was being kidnapped and under control, and it was just they're just going back and forth saving each other until it got really one-sided to the point where Mei had to just do anything and everything to keep her alive. That's insane. The story is so deep. The story is so deep. All right.
Greetings, captains. Welcome back to the Honkai Operations
Who is
Center.
this guy?
As time flows forward, Fuhua has shaped the history under different names and identities.
What happened to the
The
other
eighth
guy?
Ursher, who calls herself Fuhua, has now appeared before us. But who is she really? What has Fuhua undergone in 50,000 years?
50,000
Let's
years.
take a closer look at the long and solitary life of a warrior. Fuhua was born in the lower
Fuhua.
district of a previous era metropolis. She grew up practicing martial arts after her father and lived a disciplined life. Due to her humble origin, plain appearance, and straight, reserved personality, Fuhua was a loner when she studied in Sapphire. Only until she saved a classmate during a zombie attack did she gain the acceptance of those around her and learn to warm up to people. But just when she was beginning to envision a bright future, fate forced her on a path that she had never imagined. The Honkai Impact tore what she knew apart. The city was burned to the ground and her family and friends were killed.
Oh,
Fuhua
dang,
fled and
man.
was saved by Moss Squad 5 leader Himiko. In a world where one could not survive alone, Fuhua could no longer afford to dream and was only left with the mission to eliminate Honkai. Fuhua joined Moth as a soldier, but she was still too weak to save anything.
Moth.
Cities fell. Billions of lives perished. Her savior, Himiko, died in the hands of her comrades after transforming into a Hersher. She only had the passion to defeat
What?
Honkai, not the power to realize it. In the face of an overwhelming enemy, was running away the best thing she could do? Fuhua did not accept her fate. Burning with a grudge against her fate, Fuhua was reborn after challenging death. In an experiment that was deemed lethal, Ikor miraculously fused with her and transformed her into a mantis.
She died
And the
too?
user of Key of Domination, as well as Funhuang Down. The mantis brought home one victory after another, until the final Hersher descended. Humanity stood no chance in the decisive war. The few that survived forfeited their civilization. They put themselves into cryogenic sleep so they could start anew when the time arrives. And so Fuhua's story enters the next chapter. After 10 millennia of sleep, Fuhua was awakened as the executor of Project Ember,
Oh, I see.
whose mission was to guide the people of the new era in developing their civilization and resisting Honkai. Fuhua was not alone in this. She was surrounded by lifelong friends who genuinely cared for her and wanted her to take back her life.
Wow, look at her now.
Yet she lost all of them in a judgment-class Honkai disaster. Fuhua became alone again. As a mantis, she is immortal. As the user of Funhuang Down, her memories last forever. In Fuhua's near-everlasting life, as fleeting as her interpersonal encounters may be, the inevitable parting that ensued would still scar her for life. With her last friend gone, Fuhua closed off her heart. She secluded herself from the earthly world, carried on the mission of eliminating Honkai like the programmed robot. No mercy for the corrupted became her sole code of conduct. She only cared for the mortals' corruption, not their lives. In 1458 AD, Fuhua founded the School of Taishuan at Mount Taishuan, Shenzhou. It was to safeguard Shenzhou and cleanse the world of Honkai. The School of Taishuan, which only had 7 disciples, dominated the martial arts world with the Edge of Taishuan, a secret sword fighting style that could channel Honkai energy. To the ordinary people, Fuhua was as untouchable as a celestial, and hence was named Phoenix. In 1475 AD, on the Kipchak steppes in Central Asia, Fuhua single-handedly trounced Chickasaws' elite forces and their strongest Valkyrie, Kiana Kaslana.
Oh, shoot.
This battle also led Fuhua's first encounter with Otto Apocalypse, her lifelong rival. In the next year, for reasons unknown, her 7 disciples mutinied and razed Mount Taishuan to the ground. Fuhua was grievously injured, having lost her full power and immortality. Fuhua temporarily withdrew from the world. Since she could not protect Shenzhou in a powerless state, she made a pact with Otto. Fuhua joined Chickasaw and worked for Otto. In return, Otto pledged to watch over Shenzhou in her stead. In 2000 AD, the second Honkai eruption brought total destruction. It was later known as the most devastating Honkai disaster of the current era. In a few days, multiple major cities were destroyed, resulting in millions of casualties. In this war, Chickasaw and the anti-entropy fought back in full force. Fuhua was dispatched to subdue the Hershers as a Chickasaw Valkyrie. In Fuhua's long life, She has never ceased rethinking what fighting means, so she may one day slay all Hershers and eliminate Honkai. By then, she had found the way of defeating a Hersher. With unparalleled combat experience and Feng Huang Down's power, Fu Hua overwhelmed the pseudo-Hersher of fire and temporarily suppressed the second Hersher, who possessed 6 Hersher cores.
Ooh.
Yet even with such nigh immeasurable power, she could not defeat the second Hersher, who was under the protection of the will of Honkai. At the critical moment, Fu Hua sacrificed Feng Huang Down and her memories to activate Feng Huang Down's first power, Taishuan Eminence. It severely wounded the second Hersher and cut off her connection with the will of Honkai, creating an opening for humanity to turn the tables. Fighting this war cost Fu Hua her memories and most of her power. Over a decade later, Fu Hua enrolled at St. Freya as an undercover agent. She became the class monitor of Kiana's class.
She's back to that
the
look?
activity of the Hersher of the Void inside Kiana. Although she approached Kiana and her friends with an ulterior motive, she regained long-lost friendships and bonds in a campus life full of joy and laughters. She carried out Otto's orders while secretly helping out Kiana and her friends to protect an addictive yet fragile balance of fate. However, the mission of eliminating Honkai ultimately made her side with the other end. She took away Kiana and helped Otto rouse the Hersher of the Void. Little did she know that Otto did not play by the contract. He only roused the Hersher for his selfish desires, not to protect others.
Yeah, of course.
To keep Fu Hua out of his plan, he shot her. To stop Otto's plan, Fu Hua activated Feng Huang Down's 0th power before dying, to transfer her sentience partially into the feathers and bind her sentience with Kiana's soul. Feng Huang Down, which bore Fu Hua's sentience, led Himiko to the power that could confront the Hersher of the Void, and provide the serum that could quell the Honkai energy inside Kiana. When Bronya was trapped in Grey's Serpent's Mind Labyrinth, Feng Huang Down appeared in time to help her escape. After the Hersher of the Void begot a Honkai eruption, Kiana sunk into self-blame and loss. It was Fu Hua's sentience that supported her and taught her how to harness the Hersher power. At last, to protect Kiana, Fu Hua's sentience burned herself out in the battle against Kevin and fell into a slumber. However, that was not the end of her story. After the Schicksal battle, Otto repaired her body, only to revive a Fu Hua that was not the fighter who upheld her mission above all else and abolished her own desires. She had the looks of Fu Hua, but uttered frivolous, arrogant, and impetuous words. She had the memories of Fu Hua, but could not understand the motives underpinning them. She loathed Honkai as much as Fu Hua, but she was no different from Honkai in action. Purely driven by a desire for destruction, she destroyed. She killed Otto's clone and demolished half of Schicksal's headquarters. To vent her desire for destruction, she fought Durandal and Kevin, to trick Fu Hua's sentience in Feng Huang Down into submitting to her. She varnished over her motive time and again. To win the trust of Kiana and Bronya, she lured them into her memories to elicit their sympathy. In the end, she was not Fu Hua, but the 8th Hersher born from her memories. Perhaps to the 8th Hersher, this story that perpetuated itself for 50,000 years is an elaborated, pitiable tragedy.
Yes, it is.
The Fu Hua that constrained herself and lived solely for her mission was nothing but a failure. She wanted to become a better Fu Hua. Perhaps the girl bathing in the sun on the grass 50,000 years ago would have had the same idea had she had learned the story of her life. It is a life that has seen too many betrayals, lies, and sacrifices. However, it is also a life that shaped Fu Hua into the remarkable fighter that her friends believe in and rely upon. What does the future have in store for her? We will find out together.
No, man. That is why you do not want to live forever. Because you're going to experience so many different things, betrayals, lies. You're going to lose everybody that you know. Like, that was such an awful experience. She had an awful beginning. She had one good part in her life when she was hanging out with, Kiana and them, I guess. Died multiple times, came back and just being controlled. She has all of her memories all the way back from 50,000 years ago. that's just not. That's not ideal. That's just not good. She lived way too long and went through way too much. Like at a certain point, you just gotta come to a close. That's awful. Did all that for. I mean, she helped. She did help people. She helped Kiana, but golly, man, this is deep. This is all about Kiana, supposedly.
A few years after the second eruption in 2000, a girl came into this imperfect world in an experiment pod. She had no name, only a cold serial number, K423. K423 was created by Otto via splicing Kiana Kaslana's genes and that from Siren the Hersher of the Void together.
No
The
clone.
Hersher core attained consciousness in the new body, and she was expected to become a human with Hersher powers. In 2007, Siegfried Kaslana attempted to abduct K423 in secret, but was intercepted by Schicksal in his escape. His biological daughter went missing afterward. Siegfried adopted K423 and raised her as his own, but was unwilling to name her after his own daughter. That was until one day, to protect the injured Siegfried, K423 took up arms to confront a Honkai beast in his place. A tender soul defied fate for the first time in order to protect her loved one. Touched by her action, Siegfried decided to name her Kiana Kaslana. He made a promise to her. As the descendants of House Kaslana, it was an honored tradition for them to fight for their loved ones. On this day, the girl received her name from her father, and she set foot on a path deviating from her written fate.
What's with the eye?
However, fate had other plans. In 2010, the latent Hersher persona awoke. Blazes of anger scorched the world that had just opened up to her. To protect Kiana, Siegfried used Judgment of Shamash to suppress the Hersher of the Void. But as a result, he was severely injured. Siegfried realized that he would inevitably rouse the Hersher persona again.
Oh, his
To
arm.
protect Kiana, he left her. The girl was worthy of love. Those who loved her could do anything for her. But in the girl's eyes, it was her very existence that brought them endless sufferings and miseries.
Oh, man.
Nevertheless, she did not forget the promise with her father and continued to believe in the good of the world. In the Honkai-stricken Nagazora, when Ryden Mei, who had become the Hersher of Thunder, turned against her, Kiana still reached out to her. When they were fleeing Nagazora, Himeko rescued Kiana and Mei and took them to Saint Freya. Kiana's troubled fate was finally calmed for a brief moment. On the campus, she met friends who were like family and made the solemn vow to fight for all that is beautiful in the world. She wanted to stay, but a cruel twist would soon break her hopes.
Oh, man, that was so sweet. Siren.
Dark seeds germinated in the shadow of the peaceful years. The other sentience inside her preyed on all the good in her life once more by encroaching on her cognition and her dreams. It was Kiana's pining for a mother's love that made her awakening possible. She created illusions to make Kiana believe that she saved her mother from sacrificing herself to end the second eruption. When she realized the great joy she experienced was elusive, she broke down and let the Hersher persona take over. Being taken to the Schicksal HQ by Fuhua, she was confined in the same bleak experiment pod, just as when she was born. Only this time, Otto, who witnessed her rebirth, wished to see the Hersher of the Void return. Just as Otto expected, the Saint Freya group revolted and attacked the Schicksal HQ with anti-entropy to rescue Kiana.
Right.
In fact, he wanted them to gamble everything for Kiana. Their deep love and the ensuing sacrifices would stimulate Kiana's emotions to help her overcome the Hersher persona, so she could become a human with Hersher powers. The Hersher of the Void achieved complete awakening and pulverized Saint Freya and anti-entropy in a display of power.
She sure did.
In the end, to save Kiana, Himeko donned the Godsbane battle suit for Million Night, Eclipse. She defeated Hersher of the Void and injected the Spear of Destiny, a Honkai neutralizing serum, into Kiana at the expense of her life. Himeko fell into the imaginary space.
Sacrifice herself.
Kiana might be a Hersher, but her friends and teachers still loved her and believed in her as much. Yet their goodwill was too heavy to bear. Kiana wandered in Ark City after waking up from the nightmare. Honkai beasts and zombies hunted her. The whispers of the Hersher tortured her. She wanted to run, but had nowhere to run. Those pains and sufferings are predestined. She was test subject K423, the vessel of a Hersher, and the root cause of the world's and her loved ones' miseries. Would the world be a better place had she died? When Kiana was prepared to die with the Hersher inside, Fuha's sentience in her mind stopped her and the Hersher from reviving. Kiana finally remembered that Himeko sacrificed herself to save her because, as her teacher, Himeko believed in her potential to change the world. Kiana snapped out of grief and loss. To repay Himeko's faith, she will continue fighting her ill fate. With Fuha's help, Kiana learned how to contain the Hersher persona and utilize Hersher powers. She became a rogue hero that fought to save Ark City from destruction. Kiana discovered that the Honkai disasters plaguing Ark City were not related to the Hersher of the Void. They were the work of a shady organization known as the World Serpent.
Shady.
All traces pointed to a dreadful ploy, Project Stigma. The catastrophe caused by it would level Ark City to the ground. Kiana must transfer the Honkai bomb planted by World Serpent to save Ark City. She made it. Even though the Hersher persona and Honkai were eating her away, she did not fail Himeko. To change this imperfect world, she became the meteor that ripped Ark City's darkness open and propelled the bomb out of the atmosphere, which rewrote the cruel fate of this city.
Nobody would have survived that if that blew up.
The unconscious Kiana was taken to the Schicksal North African lab by Durandal. Otto needed a Kiana who had harnessed Hersher powers to activate the second divine key. Sick of being manipulated, she broke out from the lab and escaped Kevin's pursuit under Fuha's cover. Kiana returned to the ruins of Nagazora. She was ready to meet her end in the place where she first met everyone she cared about. She knew she had little time left as the Honkai core continued to corrupt her. To bring back Kiana, Mei set foot in Nagazora. Kiana had not stopped imagining how she would reunite with her friends once. Yet she could not seize the chance when it finally came. Honkai was growing thick in Nagazora. She had to step forward to protect the world and her friends, even if it would cost her her life. She had always been like this. She would laugh off the worst injuries. She saved the world, saved everyone, but kept the pain to herself. She was killing herself to protect the good in the world, but she had forgotten that she also meant the whole world to her loved ones. To save Kiana, Mei made a pact with Kevin. A new gem of conquest solidified in her body. She became the Hersher of Thunder again and joined World Serpent by choice. Mei knew her best friend would never accept her choice, but she could not create a future for her dearest if she held on to her past.
Yeah, she would have died otherwise. Man, this is just, oh God, I'm speechless.
After Mei left, Kiana and Bronya went to Mount Taishuan to find the ways of mastering Hersher powers recorded by Fuha, without knowing the Hersher of Sentience had already woken. In the illusion created by the Hersher of Sentience, Fuha's lonely life, bound by her mission, flashed before Kiana's eyes. Fuha planned to sacrifice herself again to seal the Hersher of Sentience. Kiana could not accept a fate that exchanged their lives for the greater good. It was Himeko's. It was Mei's. It was Fuhua's. It was hers once, and it was not the happiness they wanted. To end this wretched story the way they truly wanted, Kiana stopped fighting alone. She chose to believe in her friends. In the theater of domination, built by the Legion Hersher, she confronted her fate for the last time. She accepted her fate and who she was. She and the Hersher of the Void were both continuations of Siren's persona. The Hersher of the Void was Siren's hatred toward the world manifested. She was the other possibility, born from Siren's desire for love. The countless hearts that loved and helped her made this possibility a reality, turning her from test subject K423 into a Valkyrie who fights for all that is beautiful in the world, into Kiana Kaslana, who leads everyone forward. As for where her path leads to, we will soon find out.
Wow, man. To think that she was just a clone made from Colleen. And she was, yes, that's the crazy part, is that she was made to do wrong. Like, she was literally made to cause destruction and be a Hersher and destroy everything. And she ends up being the one and only person to essentially save, I don't know about the world, but pretty much, honestly, save so many people, save that whole city. She ended up being like the hero of everybody. So what a turn of events. That just leaves you completely speechless with these stories, man. Like, they have such great writing. Whoever's writing this is a genius. Oh, this is somewhat recent.
2008年，少女从病床上醒来，面前是一个和自己同样有着金色头发的男子。男子名为奥托阿波卡利斯，是少女的主治医生，也是天命的主教。在众人束手无策之时，是奥托将少女从鬼门关拯救回来。但据说，治疗带来的副作用让少女失去了所有的记忆。
Saved her wipe her memory.
在这名医生的引导下，少女为自己挑选了一个新的名字——比安卡·阿塔吉娜。那时的少女并不知道自己的命运已经发生了怎样的变动，更不知道眼前这个金发男子隐隐密谋着的惊天计划。Kiana Kaslana， 这是少女原本的名字。
Oh, sorry.
作为齐格菲·卡斯拉娜和 Cecilia 沙尼亚特的爱情结晶，少女在出生前就被寄予了种种祝福与厚望。但第二次崩坏夺走了少女的一切。Cecilia 在那场战斗中不幸牺牲，而7年之后，因为一场与空之律者有关的意外，少女自己遭遇了开头的那段故事。她成为了实质上的孤儿。在孤儿院那段原本不好不坏的日子里，比安卡遇见了天命女武神冲锋队的队长拉格纳罗德布洛克。即使经历过无数痛苦与牺牲，拉格纳依旧开朗阳光，就像一位传播着美好的天使。可在2010年冬天的西伯利亚，这位如夏日般可爱温婉的老师永远地离开了世界。对故人最好的纪念，就是沿着他们开辟的道路继续前进下去。为了完成拉格纳老师所未能实现的使命，比安卡下定决心要成为天命最强的女武神。在参加天命女武神准入测试时，比安卡曾与丽塔擦肩而过。尽管那时两人并未相识，但奇妙的命运终究还是借着那次量子之海的任务，把他们联系在了一起。2012年2月29日，借由格尼乌斯系统，12岁的比安卡与奥托为其配置的副官丽塔一起前往量子之海中的某个世界炮。进入量子之海后，在与卡里多尼亚号的船长莎士比亚交流的过程中，比安卡得知，在这个世界炮里，欧洲大陆被神秘的阿斯加德之壁围住，任何触碰到障壁的生物都会瞬间灰飞烟灭。更糟糕的是，阿斯加德之壁在不断向外扩张，将世界吞噬殆尽也只是时间的问题。 莎士比亚曾试图用圣剑幽兰戴尔破坏障壁，却以失败告终。蕴含神秘力量的7颗宝石也散落到世界各地。为了拯救这个世界，他希望比安卡可以重新驱动这把圣剑，破坏阿斯加德之壁。于是，比安卡与丽塔成为了卡里多尼亚号的乘客，和莎士比亚一行人踏上了寻回7颗宝石的冒险旅途。
There's so much going on.
色色的事件，体验了各种各样的风土人情。
The different
最终，
language is not
比安
out.
卡找到了所有的宝石，解决了阿斯加德之壁的问题。但即便如此，世界炮也仍然面临着解体的危机。好在卡里多尼亚号的冒险同伴薛定谔博士急中生智，指出可以借助圣剑幽兰戴尔的力量，将整个世界炮繁衍进比安卡体内，由比安卡从外部世界保护它的完整。只要比安卡还活着，这个世界炮就还能作为一个整体存在。但是，这也意味着比安卡从此要背负起守护另一个世界的责任。不过，比安卡并没有因此而产生犹豫。他说：“女武神的人生，从来不都是这样的吗？为了我所喜欢的人，为了这些人所喜欢的更多的人，为了所有让人能够称之为人的人，他们曾经使我获得了感动，而我也愿意献上自己的一切来守护他们。”而在任务成功回到天命后，少女也在自己的名字中加入了幽兰戴尔这个部分，以示自己的意志。将体内的世界炮接入虚数之术，防止他的命运与自己这个保护者过度绑定，从此成为了幽兰戴尔的一大目标。而奥托也自然将这一切看在了眼里。不过，更重要的是，为了承担起这份责任，不负那整个世界的重托，幽兰戴尔从此在一点一滴的事情上都会严格的要求自己。为了成为更强大的战士，他不断磨练自己的性格，努力让自己变得冷静、理性，甚至从一个咋咋呼呼、有些虚荣的女孩，
This
变
can't
成
end
了
well
某
for
种在
her.
旁人眼中不易接近的存在。但正因为如此，幽兰戴尔不负众望地成为了天命有史以来最年轻也是最强的 S 级女武神。
Oh, that's
这件
right.
事发生在2015年，幽兰戴尔名义上15岁的时候。也正是借着这个机会，奥托将创生之剑黑渊白花交付给了他。虽然此刻的少女还不知道，这柄武器对她而言究竟意味着怎样一种厚重的传承。同年，奉奥托的命令，幽兰戴尔和丽塔一起前往伦敦，成功带回第二神之剑，千界一成。而在参与第二神之剑的启动实验时，幽兰戴尔被一位名为苏的先行者拉入了须弥芥子世界炮内，被迫参与苏以自身经历创作的试炼。在这一过程中，幽兰戴尔简单而直接的热情唤醒了因为与凯文的争执而深陷消沉的苏。出于对这种真挚之情的信任，苏决定把自己的救世计划交由幽兰戴尔转授奥托，
Otto's done a
并
lot
将
of
须弥
stuff.
芥子托付给了幽兰戴尔，帮助他更自如地控制体内世界炮的力量。这也是不灭星矛的完整由来。从此之后，幽兰戴尔就开始配合奥托，一步步推进借用千界一成连通虚数之术的实验。可是实验屡屡陷入瓶颈，为了取得更大的进展，奥托需要妥善利用空之律者，甚至是凯文的力量加以辅助。2016年，随着空之律者在奥托操控下重临于世，整个世界进入了多事之秋。2017年，收到丽塔递交的烈月报告的幽兰戴尔，为了解救丽塔、回收 Kiana 而来到了天穹市。当时 Kiana 已经为了拯救天穹市而耗尽了自己的所有力量，正无力地从空中坠落。
She saved
于
her.
是幽兰戴尔使用黑渊白花
Yep.
催生出巨树，接住了坠落的 Kiana， 以自己的方式将她保护起来。此时牙医赶到，他想要阻止幽兰戴尔带走 Kiana， 却因实力差距悬殊，无能为力。在确认丽塔的安全后，幽兰戴尔将 Kiana 带回了北非的维穆尔实验室。对当时的幽兰戴尔来说，掌握空之律者力量的 Kiana 是奥托进一步实验的关键，而那时的他与 Kiana 之间也尚未建立起足够的信任。后来，由于实验室遭到世界蛇的突袭，这对姐妹的第一次正式会面便在一片混乱中草草收场。但对奥托来说，这次事件 不仅让他确认了空之律者的能力，还更进一步与世界蛇的领袖凯文达成了历史性的合作协议。当时的幽兰戴尔不可能知道，至此，奥托复活卡莲的布局已经准备就绪，他只需要静静等待一个合适的时机，去一步步实现这个会将所有人卷入其中的计划。之后，经历了珊瑚岛事件和石之律者事件。2017年6月，天命收到了一组奇怪的报告，他们看似毫无关联，但背后却都有崩坏的影子。在奥托遭遇了石之律者后就一直失踪的情况下，代管天命的幽兰戴尔决定与逆商合作，将相关资料毫无保留地同步给逆商，共同对抗这一系列诡异事件的幕后黑手千人律者。而在打败千人律者后的某一天，奥托突然回到了天命，准备已久的他迫不及待地正式启动了把世界炮接回虚数之术的实验。无论如何，这都意味着少女有了真正的机会去完成幽兰戴尔这个名字代表着的重大使命。虽然从结果而言，目前仍没有办法实现世界炮独立的最终目标，但在老朋友石宇绮罗、尼古拉斯和圣剑小优的帮助下，少女找到了可以与人共同分担体内世界炮的方法。少女终于不用再独自一人承担守护世界命运的责任了。另一方面，这个实验的成功也意味着奥托的计划终于可以进入最终的实施阶段。即使面对自己500年来最棒的学生幽兰戴尔，奥托也从未将计划全盘托出过。与此相反，他恰恰要利用幽兰戴尔认为他奥托也打算拯救世界的态度。他派幽兰戴尔于克洛斯城镇迎接德丽莎一行人，并以此为契机，在台前幕后不断使用激将法刺激他们。
What？
最终，当幽兰戴尔发现奥托即便牺牲整个世界也要复活卡莲的时候，他决定对奥托发起不惜诉诸武力的质询。这是幽兰戴尔第一次公然违抗主教的命令。将体内的世界炮托付给丽塔后，他只身前往教堂与奥托当面对质。虽然幽兰戴尔更希望打破砂锅问到底，弄清奥托真正的想法，但奥托并没有给他这样的机会，而是主动挑起了战斗。在与奥托的战斗中，幽兰戴尔在武力上胜过一筹，一时击败了奥托。不过，奥托也借机完成了伪神的升华，并一举将幽兰戴尔流放到了卡斯拉娜的圣痕空间，计划以借刀杀人之计，让幽兰戴尔在无意中帮助自己清理道路。
Wow, he's smart.
混沌，没有尽头。在圣痕空间中，无数的记忆碎片几乎将少女淹没。而在最终知晓自己身世的那个瞬间，少女内心却因为一些并非自己的缘故而五味杂陈。她想起了那个人生中充满遗憾的齐格飞，想起了那个继承了 Kiana 之名的成熟战士。她自己早已能坦然接受任何命运。但如果那些真相会影响到自己所认可、钦佩的人们，那就是另一回事了。或许，少女的人生始于谎言，少女的行动，过去始终在那位主教的计划之中。但少女从来不是谁的棋子，她所做的每一个决定都出于自己的意志，走过的每一段路，都是生命中重要的瑰宝。无论使用哪个名字，是比安卡，是幽兰戴尔，还是卡斯拉娜和沙尼亚，少女都是那个满怀热血，为世界上所有美好而战的女武神。过去如此，现在如此，将来也是如此。少女心中没有迷茫，因为她相信自己会始终勇敢地走下去。在未来的旅程中，少女将继续坚守自己的使命，直到人类战胜崩坏的那一天。以及那一天之后的每一天。
Man, Otto is just. I mean, what I'm getting from this is he is a excellent villain, like a really well written villain. He is just like everything comes back down to him. Like everything circles back to him. He's just using everybody for his own good. I mean, it's not for his, it's for his own good, but he has a purpose to it. He's not just like, I'm the bad guy. He actually has a full-on reason to why he is doing what he does. He wants to revive Colleen, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you gotta find out still, but he's just using people. I mean, literally used her this whole time. She grew up to be really strong though. Like, I mean, she was pretty much unstoppable, and it said she temporarily took down Otto himself. So she's she's up there, but she needs to just do her own thing and stop working for him, which I believe she did. She did. It's just Otto Apocalypse himself.
Life is but a walking shadow.
Oh, we're back in English again.
A clumsy actor gesturing on the stage, who only appears briefly and steps off in silence. Otto Apocalypse, the most pathetic fool alive.
What?
He is the revered Schicksal overseer. He is a corrupt, bigoted clown. Over centuries, he once sacrificed lives beyond count for his selfish desires, but also overthrew a decadent reign with people's support. He treated humans as pawns and trampled the value of emotion and life.
Yes, he did.
But treasured Valkyries at the front line and prayed for their triumphant return. Commitment and betrayal, friend and foe, truth and lies. No one has ever seen through him, but to Otto himself, his actions only served one purpose. It all began in an afternoon 500 years ago.
Oh boy, here we go.
Though Otto was born in the Three Houses, he was frail and sickly. He could only craft whimsical inventions, which naturally deprived him of inheritance. His older brothers detested his effort at self-destruction, but no one noticed his inner needs and desires. It was then that a white-haired, blue-eyed girl brightened Otto's cold and dull heart like a ray of sunshine. She praised Otto's work sincerely, expected great inventions from him, and invited him to save the world with her. For the first time in his life, young Otto felt recognized. He could be expected. He could be needed. Since that faraway afternoon, everything he did has gained meaning because of her validation.
Oh no.
But the twisted fate would not spare them. The rampant plague and the failed crusade tore the prosperity they lived in apart. Power and force were the perfect fuel for greed, turning a shaky faith into the breeding ground for degeneracy. In the turmoil, the lives of the two reached a turning point. Fearing abandonment, Otto chose to disregard ethics and performed experiments on dying patients. He sought findings at all costs. Callan, who could not condone his crime, became a raven at night to spread hope and enact the justice in her heart. But lies were lies. After many operations, Callan discovered the secrets of the human experiments, and Otto exposed himself at the last minute. Before the infinite greed of Schicksal, individual will was nothing. Callan was imprisoned. The cold bars separated the two that were once childhood friends, yet their minds had already drifted further apart. To Callan, the dignity of life was what she had sworn to defend. To Otto, morality and ethics were only prices to be paid. A loud slap and a conflict of beliefs sent them on completely different paths. Otto knew that in no way could he stop Callan. He accepted it and helped her escape in silence.
Okay.
After everything settled, Otto was given the key to the library. Although Void Archives used the index permission as a bait in an attempt to possess Otto, Otto did not fall for it. He developed technology with pieces of knowledge, and thus a game that would last centuries began. In the days that followed, Otto searched for Callan while continuing his research and experiments. When he heard Callan was in danger in Yai village, he immediately had Oath of Judah delivered, but not the response letter that spoke his loving heart. Meanwhile, Callan sealed the Hersher of corruption in the black box with Oath of Judah, but was severely wounded. She
Right.
was taken back to Europe by Schicksal for a trial. Callan was faithful and refused to sacrifice for family feuds, and thus was sentenced to hanging. Otto tried everything he could, but it was futile before the church's will. On the day of execution, the desperate Otto released Honkai Beast on the execution ground.
Yeah.
He planned to take Callan amid the chaos, but he underestimated Callan's resolve. In the end, Callan lost her life when protecting the people.
Oh man.
Losing the love of his life painted Otto's world gray again.
It's like his.
Resentful, he chased after Callan's shadow. He tried to give this sad story a happy ending as she would have wanted. He sounded the horn of revolution with his wisdom and cleansed the remaining evil with his hands. People sang his accomplishments and soldiers admired his resourcefulness. As cheers of victory echoed through the silent church, Otto could not help but ask himself if this was enough. In the centuries that followed, the hole inside Otto was still agape. The only way to mend it was to revive the love of his life and the holy maid of the people, Kiana Kaslana.
I mean,
In 1496, Otto had no choice but to travel to Shenzhou in search of the legendary Master Phoenix for a chance to revive Callan. He met the fledgling swordswoman Li Sushan and found the reborn Fu Hua. But to his surprise, even an immortal celestial had regrets and could not bring back departed souls. In the end, Otto and Fu Hua made a pact. Schicksal would protect Shenzhou in the powerless Fu Hua's place, and Fu Hua would serve Schicksal as a Valkyrie. In 1952, the first Honkai eruption broke out. Schicksal captured the amnesiac first Hersher and performed 3 years worth of serial experiments on him, which yielded nothing. Otto even approached him in person to persuade him into succeeding to the Schicksal overseer, but failed. To eliminate risks, Otto decided to wipe out the North American branch that was about to discover Schicksal's ugly truth. He launched Honkai fission missiles at New York, where tens of millions lived. Heroes defending freedom and justice stepped forward and crushed Otto's scheme at the cost of their lives. This led to the independence of anti-entropy. This failure taught Otto to take hold of the power to retaliate Honkai, which led to the Clone Project and the Artificial Stigma Project. In 1972, Otto began running forbidden clone experiments in the hope of reviving Callan.
forbidden.
The results were not satisfactory. After injecting the cells of Honkai Beast Vishnu, the first living batch of Callan clones was born. Otto made them fight one another to death at the end of the survival test. Only the individual numbered A310 rejected this absurd order. Her kindness in valuing life and her courage to defy her maker shocked Otto. He took A310 into his family and named her Teresa Apocalypse.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, Otto established the Tower of Babylon laboratory to study artificial stigmata. Countless gifted children were taken from their parents and subjected to inhumane experiments day and night. Insurmountable suffering and hatred against humanity nourished these Honkai vessels. At last, Siren, the second Hersher, was born. Otto mustered Valkyrie troops to subdue the Hersher, dived into her sentience with the help of Fu Hua, and received revelation from the will of Honkai. After many great sacrifices were made, Otto gave the order to launch Honkai fission missiles at Siberia, to bury the truth deep beneath the scorched snowfield. Otto's resurrection project gradually took shape due to the guidance from above. For several years, Otto tried to create the most promising clone with Kiana Kaslana and Siren's genes for the second Herrscher to possess upon return. He transplanted the core of the second Herrscher to the test subject numbered K423. The longing for Cecilia gave her life. After being taken to Saint Freya by Himeko, the love she felt and the bond she made helped her learn to love this world and those around her. Watching Kiana move along the path he designed, Otto knew when she began to believe she would never be alone was when he could advance the plan.
Oh my gosh.
In the illusory Tower of Babylon, the girl's despair and longing for motherly love facilitated the Herrscher persona's awakening. Fuhua took her back to Schicksal. The experiment pod confined her once again. Facing the pod, Otto's eyes only showed a hunger for the Herrscher of the Void's power. As Otto injected enormous Honkai energy into K423, Herrscher of the Void returned.
Where does he get that
Otto
energy from?
saved the dying Fuhua and told her his plan. Looking into Fuhua's furious eyes, Otto paused for a short yet long moment and pulled the trigger. Everything went according to his plan. Himeko burned up herself to tear through Siren's will. Kiana's sentience returned to the body of the Herrscher. To obtain a Herrscher of the Void who could command the power with human will, Otto trampled emotions and disregarded lives. Otto believed that love and emotional bonds could evoke miracles, but he never respected nor honored them. So far, Kallen's revival was only missing a key: Cosmic Juggernaut's beacon. Previously, to reach the imaginary tree that governed how worlds worked, Schicksal cracked the legend of King Arthur and found the key of infinity that offered space travel in the River Thames, but it was incomplete. Durandal passed Pioneer Sue's test by chance and received information and experience as numerous as sand grains in the Ganges. To complete Cosmic Juggernaut, Otto struck a deal with World Serpent's leader. He traded Void Archives for Cosmic Juggernaut's beacon. When the Herrscher of Dominance and Hyperion were locked in battle, he took the Theater of Domination and thousands of cores in secret. At last, the fully prepared Otto returned to the beginning. Kolisten, where Schicksal's blood and tears were buried. It would become the end of his long journey. On the other side of the stage, Valkyries had readied themselves as well. Teresa would succeed as the Schicksal Overseer and lead the newborn Schicksal toward a bright future. Bronya would shoulder the weight of the Welt name, for the Herrscher of Reason's path had stretched to her. Fuhua concluded a feud that spanned centuries, so she could embrace yesterday as a human and open the door to tomorrow. Kiana broke free from the shackles of fate and created a trail of flames that would guide them forward with her friends.
Right.
Durandal broke through the barrier of Kaslana and earned a new heritage that only belonged to her. Valkyries were eager to settle accounts with Otto. Indeed, they won. Their crushing victory was a heavy blow to Otto. What they did not know was that their growth, their resolve, and even the joy of winning were also part of Otto's plan.
What?
What he planned for in the past 500 years was but a bargaining chip to attain death and a new life. After being defeated by Valkyries, Otto broke free from Imaginary's control momentarily. He imbued the world's wedge with all the false god's power to create infinite possibilities for Kallen. As Otto left his last message, his sentience finally dissipated in the still time-space.
Presence
To different
dissipated.
people, Otto perhaps means different things. But to Otto himself, all rights and wrongs are transient. He has attained eternal peace. His life as a fool is finally over.
It's like he literally never lost. It's like the best villain ever. Everything he did was for a purpose, and he fulfilled it. What in the world? Once again, that was so well explained. Lost me just a little bit on the part that was in English, but you know, we still got through it. We still understood what happened. Man, first of all, Otto Octavius Apocalypse was just literally, like I was saying before, every single point that he had to him, he did not lose. Like every purpose that he had, however, he fulfilled. Like literally, he never lost. Only time he lost is when he lost Colin, but in that situation, it seemed like Colin didn't really want to be with him anymore at that point, because they kind of were on opposing sides. Otto had his side and Colin had her side, and they knew they couldn't see eye to eye. So it kind of seemed like things weren't going to work out even if she didn't die. But obviously, you know how powerful love can be in these situations. So Otto didn't want to just stop right there. He wanted to keep on trying to get to her. But it looks like his diversion when she was going to be hung actually kind of backfired. Now, I mean, he can't really backfire that much because she was going to die anyways. But, you know, he put the monster out there expecting everybody to run and flee. And she was the one to protect everybody, you know, and she lost her life because of it. And supposedly when he was defeated finally, he dispersed like his essence, I think they said, or his presence, and it created unlimited opportunities for Colin, I believe he said. So I am assuming that means that Colin is back. When it showed the cutscene, she was like unstabbed. So, you know, it kind of disappeared from her body. So I think she's back. Either way, what a just amazing game, amazing, like, I mean, forget the game, just the writing itself was already super good in itself. So it does not surprise me that, you know, these people are the same people who put together Genshin or any games before this, honestly. And this is just so deep rooted. And if anybody wants to know the story, I recommend you watch this, because this really just broke down everything for me. I still do want to play the game, actually, so that didn't change anything about that. But Branya and her friend, there's still probably a little bit more we can learn about that. They have their own story, which we already saw before in the other video. So because Otto took genes from Colin, it does not surprise me at all that Kiana was such a brave soul as well. Like, she was literally like a mini Colin, you know, like essentially her daughter in a way. Not really, but in a way, since he got cloned. But I didn't realize he made a bunch of different clones and had them fight to the death. That was actually, those are like the little details that you really have to dig for. I did not realize that. So one of them just left. They didn't even do it. And that was Teresa Apocalypse. So she just left and did her own thing. And then, of course, I guess he made Kiana later on, I believe. Like that single-handedly. Either way, I could talk about this all day long. My point is, just to wrap things up, absolutely loved the story of this game. It's phenomenal, absolutely amazing, and I will definitely be giving this game a try soon. With the animated shorts, this basically kind of was an anime, but honestly, man, like this, they could totally, this game came out a couple years ago, like 2017 I think, but man, they could totally make this a full-blown anime. I mean, full-blown anime. I mean, it pretty much already is, kind of, but it should be like a full one. That'd be awesome. But that'll do it for me. If you guys have any other Honkai videos you want me to see, just let me know in the comments. I will check them out as well. Once again, this was amazing to watch. I don't really mind spoilers at all. It was totally fine. But yeah, once again, any other Honkai videos you want me to see, just go ahead and put it in the comments. I'll check it out. And also, once again, I will be playing this at some point in the future, very soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys enjoy the game yourselves. And until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one.